sugar, please. Straight talk, sounds plenty sweet to me.
Seminar attendees at Raleigh Studios in Hollywood received a crash course in screenwriting from Tom Schulman, a true master of the craft. Mr. Schulman won the Screenplay Academy Award for writing Dead Poet Society. He also wrote the smash hit film What About Bob, starring Bill Murray, and co-wrote the family film blockbuster Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Mr. Schulman has also produced movies, including the provocative film Indecent Proposal, starring Robert Redford. This in-depth interview was conducted by James Jordan, screenplay consultant and owner of Candid Coverage.
It's not the
Excuse me? Would you mind lending me your wife?
Excuse me?
For luck.
What do we got to lose?
I got money, I got security, I have businesses, but you have something that I just don't have.
Well, I guess there's limits to what money can buy.
Not many.
Some things aren't for sale.
Such as?
But you can't buy people.
So what are you saying? You can't buy love? That's a bit of a cliche, don't you think?
It's absolutely true.
Well, let's test the cliche. Suppose I were to offer you $1 million for one night with your wife.
David, I think you want me to do it.
Why do you want to do it?
No. But I would. I'd do it for you. Think about what this money could do for us. What it could do for our future. It's just my body. It's not my mind. It's not my heart.
You might enjoy it.
Don't bet on it.
And if you were mine, I wouldn't share you with anyone.
It was sex, David. Just sex, not love. Just sex.
Dave!
Now, the evening would come and go, but the money could last a lifetime. Think of it. $1 million. For one night.
I mean, I would put the outgoing message on my answering machine was always some kind of joke, something funny, so that when they called me back to say no, or the secretary would, many times I would hear the secretary laugh, and then I would hear the agent laugh, and then I would hear the secretary call back and say, okay, he'll meet you, you know, just because the answering machine message sounded
For those who don't have an agent, what's the next step that they should take with their scripts?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed since I was trying to get an agent, but I remember at the time you could go to the Writers Guild and they would give you a list of all the agents who were signatory to the Writers Guild, and there were 250 of them, independent agencies, or agents working alone, and now there are, I don't know, 20. So it's harder, but I think the best advice I've heard recently is that you should call an agency or find out through friends who the literary agents are who just came up from the mailroom at the big agencies, because those are the people who need to earn their stripes at those agencies. A lot of what they're asked to do by their bosses is to work for some of the bigger clients, but they will have time to read new stuff, and you become what they call a pocket client. If they go to their bosses will go, you don't need to spend time trying to work on this new client, but that agent will sort of put you in his pocket and help you, you know, in the evenings, and share your script with some producers that he or she may know, and that's how your career gets started. So you won't sign with them right away, and they'll just be testing the waters with some of their friends. everybody hates rejection. I remember Jeff Katzenberg, at one point we had a script we were working on, a movie we were working on together, and an actor rejected it. He called me and said somebody had passed, and I went, ah, damn it. He said, you can't even say that. He said, you writers, you act like you get more rejection than I do. He said, I get a lot more rejection than you do. He said, I get rejected. I got 25 projects I'm trying to get made. They all getting rejected every day. I just got one. And so agents are the same way. You know, they'll read something, they'll fall in love with it, they'll give it to 2 or 3 friends who don't respond, and then, you know, that fear of rejection hits them. They don't want to risk, you know, on other people. So a lot of people get upset with agents because they don't seem to want to stick with something they believe in. But it's a very human thing, I think, to not do. So that's, I think, you know, getting a lawyer is easier than getting an agent. So, and there are a lot of entertainment attorneys who know a lot of agents. So if you can find your way to an entertainment attorney, they can take your script to several agencies for you. And that's
if you're willing to sign all the paperwork, a lot of production companies will let you submit directly. So do you recommend that rather than try to just jump through the hoops for the agent, see if you can network and reach a lower level person at a production company?
You do it all, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the good thing about the agent is that they sort of open the door to dozens of production companies. So whereas you're spending hours or days trying to get into one, they're the magic key to many. So getting an agent or a manager or a lawyer is better than getting an individual production company, but you got to do it all. You know, sometimes you'll make a deal with a production company and they'll say you need an agent. We know just the agent who will, you know, give you the worst deal possible. But
these worlds that you create, do you ever feel like you get trapped in them?
No. You know, you have to get as involved in the world of each script as possible. But hopefully, you know, at night, and having a family is a good, you know, reality check, because you're trying all day long to get involved in your script, and you got to pick the kids up from school. The dog is just thrown up, you know. So, you know, late at night, I get trapped in those scripts. But I wouldn't say trapped. I mean, it's I have a love-hate relationship with the whole writing experience. I love getting into it, and I also fear it. So I can't say that I can just say, okay, I've got an hour now and I'm going to jump into the world of my script. There's something, knowing the problems that it has, knowing the things I have to solve, it's always daunting. I always worry that I'm not going to be able to solve a given problem. So I kind of keep a distance as if to say, I don't care about this thing. To hell with it. I'll just do something else when I care about it deeply. But so I think, but I know writers who don't suffer that, and they're better off for it. So if you can jump into that world of your script and sort of live there for a while, that's a great place to be, because that's when the writing is best, I think.
Now, when you get this giant binder of 400 pages done, about how long from that time when you said, okay, I've got everything here that I need, till you have a finished draft?
5 or 10 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it
So
literally is the script.
So you're just editing at that point?
Yeah.
You're just editing down?
It's like automatic writing at that point.
Okay.
As much as it can be. I mean, I'm thinking, and I probably, on every page I have 10 suggestions for any given line of dialogue, or, you know, 5 different ways the scene could go from there. But by the time, at a certain point, by the time I put all these things on the Scotch tape onto the paper, I know 90% of them are useless anyway. I've already figured out every scene. So, I think you were asking about pieces of advice. I think one piece of advice that's good is don't start writing until you've finished it with the idea, with the story, until you know everything.
Definitely the ending.
Yeah, you've got to know the ending, but the more I just think, oh my God, this is a great idea, and I start writing, the more I get in trouble. You know, you've got to think it through.
Do you have multiple binders going? Do you have like drawers with lots of different scripts in progress?
Not binders like that. I have files with lots of different scripts in progress, but there's always just one or two that are sort of on the forefront that are on the back burner.
I remember Patrick Shane Duncan. He spoke at the network years ago when I got the audio tape, and he was saying that he was working on 4 scripts at once. He had 4 stools in his living room, and he would just dump things in different stools. And he said at one point he had Mr. Holland's Opus and Nick of Time. He said the other 2 were just not going to happen, and he threw them away.
Wow.
And he finished those 2 and turned them in at the same time.
Wow.
So I mean that's now I would get trapped in that world if you were trying to do.
Yeah.
So you're more focused one script at a time.
Yes, once I'm actually writing a script, the others just, sit dormant. But in the process of trying to figure, if I'm working on, an assignment and a spec, which I try to do, I try to write something of my own and something for them at the same time. At a certain point, the assignment has got to get done. So the other one goes in the drawer for a while, or its file stays shut. And sometimes then another assignment comes along, or I have to do a rewrite on something else I did. So it takes a while to get back to my own project.
Is there a trusted reader or group of readers that you give before you turn in the script to your agent or to the producers?
Yeah, I mean, my agent has always been sort of among my trusted people, just because he has good ideas. But there are about 4 people who read my stuff and just tell me what they feel, and it's really helpful.
Are they also
That's
writers?
something I think everybody's got to have.
Are they also writers?
Yeah.
Okay, so you read their stuff as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are brutally honest with each other, and I mean, not in a brutal way, but we tell the truth, and it's the only way you can really help somebody is just to say, hopefully you don't lie to see or the character's not working, but if you've got to be able to say to them, this isn't, this didn't work.
Well, I want to revisit that notes thing before that we were talking about, because if executives all give you different notes on the same scene, it's because they don't know what's wrong, but they do know something's wrong with the scene.
That's right. It's your job to figure out why. There's nothing more annoying than people trying to rewrite the scene for you. Sometimes they come up with the right idea, but most of the time, and that's the thing about the studio notes, is that they'll mention something that's a problem, and then they'll ramble off into some area for solving it that's just a mind-boggling disaster, and it can sort of muddy the waters, because as a writer you react so strongly to their bad suggestion of what to do that you forget that maybe they're right about the thing not working.
Yeah.
So you have to. It's sort of our job to know that if something's not working in the third act, it's usually because we didn't do something right in the first act, and so forth. So I always want to hear, is it working? Are you getting this stuff? You don't necessarily have to tell me what to change. Just tell me what's working and what's not, and I'll try to figure it out.
The question was, tell us something that we don't know about What About Bob?
Well, What About Bob was an ending problem movie. Disney wanted it to have a kind of aren't we all happy and loving and together kind of ending. Although they didn't know. They just knew the ending, no ending satisfied them. So at one point, they had a sweepstakes at the studio. I had an office over there while I was writing What About Bob. I came into my office and there were this stack of papers on my desk, and they were suggestions from other writers who worked on the lot for the ending of Bob. And nobody had it. I mean, none of us could figure out what the hell to do. So I was sort of sticking to the original ending, and it got so bad that when we shot the movie, we didn't shoot the ending. We ended the shooting. If you saw the movie, there's a scene where Bob blows up. Is it Bob blows up Leo Marvin, his psychiatrist's house? Or actually, is it the other way around? Is it psychiatrist? I can't remember. But it's been a while. I think the Richard Dreyfuss character blows up his own house to try to kill Bob. And Dreyfuss comes out of the house and he's getting ready to go back to his car or something, and Bob walks up. Bob wasn't in the house. And Dreyfuss goes berserk and attacks him. And we shot that moment. And we shot the burning house and had a big special effects plate made of the burning house. And it was determined that whatever happened from that point on, because we were over budget and over days and so forth, that we would figure it out and shoot it later. So the movie was edited and it was shown in theaters as previews without an ending. Meanwhile, the search for an ending went on. And
And you're the man who always knows the ending before you write.
Right. So at one point, we have a meeting, and it's with all the head. We were about 2 months away from release at this point, and it's now time to go shoot whatever ending we have. And I've been submitting the same ending basically with slight variations for months, and they're getting very frustrated with me. But, and so we went to have a meeting with Katzenberg and Eisner and all those guys, and the director said, I called Elaine May last night, and Elaine had read the script and said, if Bob and Marvin were man and woman, they would kiss and hug at the end. So I think that what should happen is that Bob should that Marvin should blow up the house, and then he should see Bob come out of the house and suddenly go, "Oh my God, you're alive! Thank God you're alive!" and hug him. And then we'll cut to them a year later, and they're reminiscing about what this summer and how Bob almost got killed and blah blah blah. And all the executives in the room went, "Great idea, great idea." And I went, "That doesn't work." And they're going, Tom, you're too close to this. You've been working. I know, but why would he suddenly hug this man he's been trying to kill for days? Why would he suddenly say, "Thank God"? And Frank said, well, because he's so good. He realizes he almost killed him, and now he realizes he didn't kill a man, so he feels good about that. I said, I don't think we've got that. I don't think we've laid the pipe for that. I don't think that's going to work. Anyway, you're too close, you're too close, you're too close. So that's the ending we're shooting. So I just thought, oh my God, this is good. So I started. We had 2 more previews without the ending, and in each preview we would have a meeting after the preview and talk about any notes we had about the movie. And at the first preview, afterwards I raised my hand and I said, "We've got to shoot an alternative ending. I've been watching this with this ending we're shooting. It's not going to work." And then, Tom, no, we're not shooting another ending. We're only shooting one ending. Get behind this. Either you can write it, or Elaine May's going to write it, but you should write it. No, I'm not going to write this. You do, because I can't. I don't get it. So the next meeting we had, I went to see Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he's going, "I don't want to hear about this anymore. Don't bring it up again." So
now you're not the nice guy.
I'm not the nice guy. So by that time, Laura Ziskin, the producer, was on my side. So she and I were starting to think, oh, we should. So we had the next preview, same thing. Afterwards, we were in Pasadena. I remember sitting outside of the little restaurant, and Jeffrey went around the room, around the table to ask people notes, and he said, he got to me and he said, "This better not be about the ending." And I said, "Jeffrey, it is about the ending." And he went, "God damn it, stop it with your goddamn ending." And I said, "You can't start with the ending, you're ruining the movie." And he said, "Well, then shoot your way. Just shoot it your way, too." And I said, "Okay." And I looked at Frank and he said, "Would you just shoot it his way, just shoot his ending, just to shut him up?" And I said, okay, sure. I mean, it's your movie. I don't think that ending works. And so we shot both endings, and we had a preview. And at 7 o'clock we showed one ending, and at 9 o'clock we showed the other ending. And when I got there, a little before 7, Jeffrey said, "Have you been in the bathroom?" And I said, "No." He said, "Go in the bathroom." And there was a big piece of cardboard with a betting pool on which ending would work better and how many points. And everybody was putting in the winner who guessed the number. And I came out, I said, "Is this what this is?" He said, "Well, you didn't see what I bet." So I went back in there, and Katzenberg had put that on my ending. And I said, "Oh my God." And he said, "I saw both today, you're right." Frank's ending went first, and I went down to the front of the theater, and I'm looking, it was over, and as soon as it was literally like springtime for Hitler, and people in the audience were just going, what? They may have been able to make that ending work, but they hadn't sort of set it up in the first one. So not that the ending works so well now, but at least so that's another one about Bob.
Well, and that's interesting because you saved the battle for the one time that it counted on project, and that's important because I think people
not consciously, just purely on desperation.
Well, but I mean, you did believe that it was about ultimately about something that was major at stakes with the success or failure of the film. You didn't just say that about everything. Yeah. I mean, that was really the big time that you clashed with.
I think that in the early days I was too naive to be. I think I was diplomatic about the way, but I think I fought every fight, every battle, everything. I did not. I've heard a lot of people give the advice: save your, pick your fights. I kind of think that's not right. I think every little, when I talk about the death of 1,000 cuts, I think if you let the little things go, it's going to hurt the movie. You have to decide. I mean, there's some little bitty things, but I think you want to just be, you know it. You wrote it. You know it better than anybody. And you know, if there are a lot of things that matter. Almost everything matters. By the time you get through with the script, you have poured over every, vowel, consonant, article, everything. It's as perfect as you can make it. Not that it's perfect, but if somebody wants to change it, they've got to have a good reason. So if they have a good reason, great. If they have a better idea, even better. But if they don't have a good reason, they can't let them change it, because some of the reasons they change things are just crazy. So,
Well, to be diplomatic.
yeah, you got to be diplomatic, and you have to, you just kind of have to say, well, that's interesting, but here's why I did it, and keep fighting. And I think the more they perceive that you're going to stand up for it, the more they believe in what you've done. Now you're going to, reap the whirlwind when it's all over if it didn't work. But
well, you don't want to do marshmallow because they are hiring a writer with a spine.
Yeah.
But just use it appropriately.
Yeah.
If you do look at Hollywood now, most of the things being produced by the studios seem to be adaptations from whether a book, a short story, a play, but material based on previous work. Do you recommend that be a pathway for people to move forward?
To me, it's just about whether the story resonates. So if you're redoing Hamlet, I have a friend, I think they did a pilot, and it's sort of a redo of Hamlet in modern day Detroit. And I mean, if it's a slavish kind of adaptation where it becomes obvious to the 10 people in America who know Hamlet that that's what they're doing, then it's going to be boring. But if it seems fresh and the people who watch it feel that it's something that a story that is happening spontaneously and now in Detroit, absolutely valid. So I don't think either holds. The adaptations are just as hard as originals. Because after the first draft, you're just rewriting. And sometimes an adaptation is harder because you have to, it's a beloved book or play, and you've got things you've got to put in there that really may not work for a movie. Work when the play was there, but not. So it's hard. It's hard to, and long books. The Harry Potter books are just, 800 pages of scenes people adore. And how do you pick the ones to use? How do you abbreviate it into a 2.5 hour movie? It's tough to do.
So do you think, though, with the business climate, especially in this last writer's strike, it didn't say anything, it said it's all about the money. So for agents and executives to be able to say, hey, this made money in a different light as a play, as a book.
Absolutely. If you look at what's going on out there, it's fairly clear that they want things that are pre-sold. I mean, it's very hard to get originals made now. So, to the extent that you have something that you can use to reference something else that's successful, that's the best way to get these studios and networks' attention. Because if it wasn't, if the cost of making these movies is so astronomical that the risk is $150 million to $250 million for most movies. So
they can't afford to fail.
They cannot afford to fail. They have to. If there's anything that can give them pause, and that's something you have to think about when you're writing an original script. Is there anything about it that somebody's going to bring up that clears it for the group of people who are the decision makers? Someone could say, the main character is just not that likable. That's the end of it. I mean, if people, any big thing like that, and sometimes little things. So to the extent that it's an adaptation of something that's been successful for centuries, that's a good thing. To the extent that it's Shakespeare, and that's a bad thing, because the modern executive doesn't think anybody knows anything about Shakespeare. So that's not an automatic, but it's a bad time for original work. The question is, why do you have to have the ending before you start writing? Why not? Why do you have to think it through? And I've tried it both ways. It's more just my experiential results. I've had a couple of scripts where suddenly I just went, oh my God, what an amazing idea! And I start writing. I know the characters. I know the story. I think, and by about page 60, it's just, for whatever reason, it's just a mess, and it makes it harder to pull back and think, okay, what should I have done? Because I've now written at least 10 or 12 scenes that I love, and getting up those scenes is really hard. Whereas if I just restrain myself a little bit and say, okay, I can feel these scenes are going to work, but what's the ending? You know, a lot of writers, and maybe one of the good pieces of advice somebody gave me is that really you're writing backwards, you know, from your ending. You have to know your ending, because then the question is, how did this happen? How did this ending happen? And that is the first 2/3 of the script. So I think that there are just pitfalls in writing from the beginning without knowing the ending that may make getting to a good ending insurmountable. Unless you're really good at just killing your babies and saying, you know, all these scenes I just wrote aren't going to be in my movie. They were just an exercise to get me to the place where I can figure out my ending. It's hard to do that. So that's why.
And if you look, thinking as an example, American Beauty, I don't remember exactly what page number or minutes into the film, but when Kevin Spacey says something to the effect of, you know, the day I died was just a pretty ordinary day. At that point, you realize everything moving forward in the story is going to take on greater significance.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it foreshadows the ending, but it also, I think, then makes you, the viewer, realize the ending you're going towards, and every scene becomes a little more special.
That's
if you
right.
don't have the ending, you know, then those scenes are no longer special.
Yeah. I mean, a good script, I think, you know, from the get-go is kind of pregnant with something. You can feel it pushing you somewhere. And it can only be that way if the writer knows the ending. You're suddenly just sucked into something and being dragged somewhere. Questions, you know, the cliches, you're asking questions in the beginning that you're going to answer at the end. Well, as a writer, you got to know the answer. You got to know where you're taking it. It's your theme. You know, so if it's about, you know, power corrupting, then you've got to know how that character is going to get corrupted at the end. So now you know you've got a powerless character at the beginning who gets power, and through power gets corrupted. So you don't know that unless you know your theme, and you don't know your theme unless you know the ending. So
And everything hinges on the ending. Cameron actually told me he got a note that from the studio, an executive obviously that wasn't getting Titanic, said, "Does DiCaprio have to die at the end?"
right.
You know, and you're like, well, yeah, of course he has to die at the end. Half the people in the Titanic died at the end. You know, you can't make it a happy ending movie.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're living with the ending that you make, and you're working from page one to that ending with all the characters and the storyline.
I'm James Jordan. Hope you enjoyed this video. For links to other videos and lots of free articles about screenwriting, please visit candidcoverage.com. Thank you for watching.